the Imposter Syndrome Club. I'm Alice, and I am joined, as always, by my friend and collaborator and personal hero, Jessamy. Hello.
Aww, I'm always so excited to see what compliments I'm going to get today. Personal hero is the best. Thank you.
Do you know, every time I do it, in real time, my brain wonders why I didn't just Google some fucking adjectives.
Or you can also just say Jessamy.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I love it, and I personally support you continuing to compliment me immensely at the start of every podcast because it makes me feel really good.
Yeah, you are, in all seriousness, you're someone that listen, I'm just getting fucking deep into the feelings right here, but you're someone that I respect and love a lot. I was telling Tom the other day, there's that thing about you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around.
Yeah.
And I was saying to him that you are one of those 5 for me. Luckily, with the podcast, with work, we collaborate sometimes with work stuff and just as friends. I feel incredibly lucky.
Aww. Well, same. And I remember years ago, so we were sort of in the earlier stages of our friendship, just falling in love.
It was our crush phase.
Yeah.
It's still going a bit. But.
Yeah. We're moving into our married phase.
God. Yeah, we are.
But I remember, I think it had been after doing that Brene Brown leadership course, the Dare to Lead. It's based on her Dare to Lead content, and it was like a 6-week or something course that I did. And it's the same concept, but she calls it your square squad, I think, because there's sort of 4 people in it. So thinking about being intentional, if you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with or 4 people that you spend the most time with, you need to be intentional about who those people are because that matters. And you were one of my square squad. And I think I even wrote down as a goal for the coming year, it might have been as we were doing our business sleepover that we do annually. Like just more time with Alice was like one of my goals for the following year.
I think I remember that was the year. I remember getting a text from you on the 31st of December, and it was obviously part of you must have been in like a context of reflection, and there was a text of like one of my New Year's resolutions is for us to spend more time together. And I literally felt like someone had given me a bouquet of flowers because it was that early friendship time of like you've identified this human that you just feel that feeling of it's like that. Not only are you drawn to them and obviously like attracted to them as a human and their brain and what they're about and their personality, but there's also just that little piece of just thinking that it's like crush feeling of just like, you're also like not sure. Like I used to, when we were new friends, I'd like leave and I was like, oh my God, did I fuck that up? Was I weird? Was I too weird? Yeah. And every time I'd get the text and we'd hang out again. And yeah, I don't know. It's always like, it's cute reflecting on that stuff. When those friendships do grow into something that is so safe, like now this is one of the places I feel the safest and the most accepted. And I'm like, oh, baby.
Yeah, there was a time where like, does she like me too?
Yeah, totally.
It's so funny like that friend crush as opposed to a romantic crush because there's no sort of like culmination in the same way. Do you know what I mean? Like if you've got a romantic crush on someone.
Consummate our friendship.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you've got a romantic crush on someone, at some point like you kiss or you don't, right? Like, and then you have the information that you need to move forward. But there isn't really a friend version of that, except maybe like there does seem to be some turning point, like maybe you stay overnight somewhere together or you just raise your eyebrows at me. I'm like, not in a sexy way.
Completely unintentional. My left eyebrow does its own thing. It's not.
It's its own boss.
Yeah. It's like my twin that I absorbed in utero. It just inhabits my left eyebrow. Pay no heed.
Okay. All right, lefty. Or like you get drunk together for the first time. Or, something where you the last of your sort of little barriers that you were holding up maybe get eroded because you're more comfortable, which could be because of the addition of alcohol or could just be like seeing each other in your PJs,
Yes,
you know.
it's the showing someone your mess moment
Yes,
you're like, where you have, it's almost like, I'm now using a metaphor that is not accurate because I'm not a homeowner. But imagine you had like a home and you could invite someone into your lounge and kind of host them for a dinner, but that's within your control because you've cleaned it before they get there and you've like put out the nice cutlery or whatever.
Yeah.
But then there's the moment that they go to your bedroom and see what a fucking chaos mess you are. And it's like the crossing of that threshold because you have to hold your breath. Because if they're not into that, you're like, well, okay, cool. That's
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about something. I'm making it sound like it's very serious. Right. It's not. So last weekend, Dan and I met our new baby nephew. Very cute little freshie. It's like, it must be like two or 3 weeks old. So I've always been very nervous about holding babies. So I'm the youngest. It's just my sister and I. We don't have any younger cousins anyway, but even if we did, my family from Queensland, we moved to Melbourne the year before I was born. So didn't have any family, never babysat, just didn't have any younger kids around. So I was not used to interacting with babies or younger children. So I've always been a bit weird. And then, you know, getting older and as friends start having babies and there's the whole thing of like, you got to go meet the baby.
Simba.
Right. Which like, yeah, cool. Like it's exciting and stuff, but I'm very nervous. Basically, I usually don't want to touch the baby, but there's a whole thing of like, oh, you want to cuddle? And the real answer usually is no, I don't, because I'm scared of it and it doesn't.
I'm scared of it, okay?
I am. I'm not scared.
I'm laughing because this is so relatable. I'm like, it's the tiniest, most defenseless thing, but I'm like, I'm fucking terrified. It is simultaneously the most important thing to someone you love and also the most fragile.
Exactly.
And then they just give it to you.
Yeah, like you're meant to know what to do with it. And this is I think the most interesting thing about it is that not only is it just like I feel awkward and it's a very precious thing that's like very new to the person who owns it.
Made it.
Who made it. So there's all of that sort of stuff. But then there is this like really ingrained shame around everyone will see how uncomfortable I am and how un-maternal I am. And that makes me a bad woman.
Oh my God. Love.
Isn't that fucked?
It's so fucked and it is also so relatable. Like I feel like I'm going to hold it. It's going to immediately start crying.
Yeah.
But it won't be like when it cries when other people hold it, because when other people hold it, it cries because it's like, oh, it's just a baby and babies cry sometimes. But when I hold it, it's crying because my soul is like a festering black pit
and it knows
badness.
It can see because it's just come from it's new.
It's an angel basically. It's just come from like angel realm, and it can identify that like there's some darkness in me that's uncurable and like fundamentally broken and wrong and bad. 100%.
Exactly.
Can I tell you something that I've worked out for this very situation? And it works pretty much every time. And it's kind of it's like taking the whole system but using it against itself, which is just this. You just fake it. And because you're packaged in a female form, everyone's fine with that. They're like, oh yeah, no, it's not fake. It's just that she's a woman and she loves babies.
I mean, I think that's probably been my strategy. And I must say, like, I'm less awkward as I get older because I'm happier to say I'm super awkward because I haven't spent much. I'm happier to just say that. And obviously with family, it's easier again because they know me and stuff. It's fake. I love it. So that is kind of the route that I took for this, but how do you say I'm finished now?
I've had my turn. I have everything. We're done.
Yeah, like I'm done with this now.
Yeah.
I'm sick of your baby.
Yeah. Your baby bores me.
And this wasn't with our beautiful baby nephew. He's gorgeous, and I was happy to. I was
Not a
very
great
happy to hold him.
conversationalist.
Well, I'll get into that momentarily, but that was my. It's related to the being awkward with him, right? So I don't feel confident standing up. So basically, I'm sitting there. I get Dan to place the baby on me in a way that I can't possibly fuck up, and then I am frozen because I'm so terrified that I'm going to break its beautiful little baby neck somehow. Yeah. If I was more baby competent, I would have just stood up and put him back in his crib, fine. But I'm so nervous, and then again, because of the shame, you're a bad female thing, I don't want to ask, but then it's just so awkward. Like, how do you then? I'm done.
I love that we're speaking about this because I'm literally like, I feel like it's so, God, it's making me feel just so much calmer about it because it just really feels like I watch other people and not only do they know what to do, but they look like they're enjoying it.
Yes.
And I'm like, I would take just one of those two things.
Yeah.
I would be fine with one.
Yes.
I've got zero.
Totally.
I'm terrified. I'm like, the whole thing, I'm like, have I done enough to show you that I'm proud and happy and on board? But like, and the whole time, it's exact that feeling of holding it. I also do the same thing where I'm like, only sitting down. Like, I need to be sitting. The thought of standing and holding it, I'm like, I don't know what I think is going to happen. It's just my I'm going to forget.
None of it's based in logic.
No, but I'm like, if I'm sitting, I've kind of like lowered my center of gravity and then I'm just going to stay there and hold it. And then the whole time, all I can think is like, the neck. Support.
Yeah.
Oh my God, something about the neck. That people keep saying the neck.
Support the head.
Yeah, because even the thought of like now when you were saying about, oh, someone could put it in the crib or something, my brain would just be like, is it fine horizontal? Like, is it going to choke on its own spit? Like, I don't know. What is it going to do?
He was there when I arrived, but for some reason I'm like, it'll be different when I put it down.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to put it down at the wrong angle.
And it's so dumb because the other, like my brother and sister-in-law, they don't give a shit. Like, they would not at all be insulted. They're very chill parents and like they know me. Yeah. There is no part of them that would be judging me in any way, but it's like, it's my shit. It's between me and the baby.
And the baby's winning.
Yes. It's so powerful.
It's true. Listen, okay, I've given this some thought, and these rightly or wrongly, but what I've decided is, firstly, in the beginning, you just have to fake it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like, and when I say faking it, the fact that you're there, and I say you, me, one. The fact that one is there in the first place is like, you're not faking the love and support. No. That is real. It's just faking the comfort around this like little alien creature.
Yeah.
But it's all coming from a good place. Like, it's not coming from like, I hate and resent this thing. It's just coming from like, I don't want to hurt this thing. And I feel I'm acutely aware of the pressure and the value of this beautiful object, and I don't want to fuck it up, right? Yeah. So it's coming from that place. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, you just fake the confidence with it. And I'm trying to make myself do it because usually I would have taken the first option and kind of like make a joke out of it. And I've always been with partners who are quite a lot warm and squishier and fuzzier. Like all of the guys I've been with happen to be great with babies and kids. So like I can kind of like deflect onto them. And it is also that classic thing of like, a woman holds a baby and everyone's like, cute, that's cool, you're holding it, you get no points. Your partner, if they're male, holds a baby, everyone's like, oh my God, he's so good with a baby. I'm like, he's just holding it. Yeah. I was doing that.
And I'm terrified.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are my baby points?
Exactly. I'm like, why? It's the same way when you go to a coffee shop. It's like a classic Collingwood Fitzroy scene on a Sunday. Like dad's taking the babies out to go get like a expensive coffee.
Yeah.
And the second it's like there are a million mums all the time with like prams and babies and everyone's like, yeah, cool, whatever, they're just people getting coffee. The second that it's like a group of dads with baby, everyone's like, oh my God, like equality.
Yeah.
They are such like
Wonderful.
great family. I'm like, no, they're just doing the same thing, like the same thing, but they get a parade.
I think it's even worse than that, because I think it's not even just like mother is neutral, father is doing something amazing. I think there's almost like a slight dip to the negative. Like if there's a mum with kids, it's like, oh, annoying, like little shits, there, blah, 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 blah. But if it's a dad with kids, again, yeah, like celebration, parade, streamers.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Because if the baby started screaming with the mum, everyone would be like rolling their eyes like, please, fuck, it's so annoying. If the baby starts screaming with the dad, everyone's like, oh my God, like he's so brave.
Yeah. And this is the sort of shit that like when, I mean, again, like 99% sure, and the door's going to be closed in my face very shortly anyway. But like, you know, Dan and I have had conversations about kids and what would that look like and all this sort of stuff. And trying to express to him that like regardless of how even and progressive and whatever our relationship dynamic is, the world is not equal when it comes to parenting. And being the perceptions around being a mother, the expectations around being a mother is different. It just is. And you can try as much as you want to make that equal. It just won't be. Which is why I'm like, I would be a dad. I don't really want to be a mum. I can't really do anything about that.
Yeah, it's I almost feel like in that, and again, this is I haven't lived this, but just my thoughts on it are kind of, you almost, equality doesn't exist anyway, but to create some kind of like healthy and equitable relationship. And obviously, you know, disclaimer for anyone listening, of course we're speaking now in like super heteronormative terms.
Sure.
And of course this can take a million other shapes and forms, but just as like a short and quick kind of way of discussing it. But like, I think that it's almost like having to acknowledge the fact that inequity is often like structurally built in is the only way to deal with it fairly, because like at least if you can look it in the eyes and be like, this is what we're dealing with. Wow.
Yes. It's the patriarchy coming to shut down this conversation.
They're fucking lawnmowers.
I'm not sure how much of this, I'm sure you'll be able to hear that because that's quite loud, but there is someone doing their gardening outside while we're having this life-changing conversation.
Maybe they're doing maybe we're going to get mad about it, but maybe it's your neighbor mowing your lawn as a beautiful neighborly gesture.
It's definitely not.
Okay.
But yes, I agree. And I think that's where I have encountered some frustration with these conversations before. It's like people going, I don't see colour. Well, that's not fucking useful because it exists and people have different experiences based on their background, the colour of their skin. That is a truth. Like we don't want that to be the case, but it is. So by saying, oh, I don't know, I don't see colour, that is not helpful.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same thing, or can be similar with this, in that it's like, it's not helpful to be like, no, but like we'll be totally different. Like we'll be totally equal because we, you know, respect each other, and that we don't have the, you know, outdated, you know, typical gender role, whatever type situation. But that's not useful. Like that's just not how it works, and it needs to be acknowledged so you can do your best to navigate around it.
Exactly. And I think that that's a really interesting kind of way, you know, there's this whole thing around like toxic positivity at the moment, and like this is not necessarily exactly that, but I think it's adjacent to that, where it's this idea of, because actually it's really hard to argue with the ideal at the heart of that. It's almost like people are skipping the middle step of the work and are speaking very aspirationally of like complete equality and this complete like utopian state of like, yes, in a dream world, we are all going to be equally co-parenting. Like, so you're not arguing. You're like, yeah, that is a totally valid and important thing to strive for.
Yeah.
But if you if you skip the middle step of admitting that the current state is a mess, you're almost using that dream to perpetuate the inequity.
Yeah.
Instead of actually looking at it and being like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but here's what's fucking happening.
And I think also what it does is then makes you feel guilt and shame about not achieving that unrealistic situation.
Yeah.
Because then if you're skipping over the middle part and not acknowledging its existence, then you're always trying to live up to something that is impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it in that way. I think there's so many sides to it. And I mean, I've seen also ways in which, of course, it affects everyone involved, but also like how hard it is for dads as well who, you know, the realities of like I don't know. It's hard for everyone. Basically, like there are certain structures that just make it really fucking hard. And that's...
Well, this is the thing, you know, and it's like when you talk about feminism, it's not about like making things better for women. I mean, it is, but it's like equality benefits everybody.
Yeah.
So, you know, having more flexible work arrangements for dads as well as mums, you know, like all of this sort of stuff and like this stuff affects it from the other side too. It's not just like...
Well, exactly. Like if the dad is not like if his paternity leave is so much shorter, that's part of perpetuating. I mean, I've seen this with my sister. Is like, well, it means that if her partner's going back to work first, she is doing more of that primary carer role.
Yeah.
As a result of being more of the primary carer early on, the child is learning to rely on her more, and that's going to make it harder and harder for her to leave for longer because it's set up that pattern, which then just gets kind of like deeper as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Are we not going to fix the patriarchy today? That's what am I getting that from this guy?
Man, I mean, I feel like we were almost there.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, there was something earlier that I wanted to say to you, but it's gone. And I guess we'll never know.
Well, there you go.
It was hilarious, also very smart.
I bet it was. I don't doubt it for a second. Well, conversely to feeling very nervous about meeting babies, you know what I don't feel nervous about meeting?
Meeting dogs?
Meeting puppies.
Yes.
Which is just true. They are just better. They're cuter. They do more stuff. Like toddlers I'm kind of into, human ones. Babies, like I think it's amazing to see a freshly cooked human and how tiny their little nose and ears and stuff
and
are.
their little fingernails.
And the tiny little thing, like that is like, it's amazing, but they don't do a lot, you know? But puppies are just joy. So I bring this up because I met a puppy yesterday.
Tell us about the puppy you met.
So Rowena, my practice manager at my business Thinking Colour, just got a Samoyed puppy. You know, there's the big white fluffy dogs.
They're just a white puff ball. They look like pom-poms of pure whiteness.
Yes. So she has already an adult Samoyed who is gorgeous. So I met him for the first time in person yesterday as well.
What's his name?
Midas.
Cute.
Yeah, he's gorgeous and huge. He weighs like 35 kilos. So my dogs weigh like 3 kilos.
It's just 10 of your dogs standing on each other's shoulders wearing a fur coat.
Yeah. Trying to get into an R-rated movie. Midas. But he's like a bear. Like I just kept like putting my arms around him and going like, this is amazing. It's like a whole big, like a person in a fluffy coat. Anyway. And so Kevin is the name of the puppy.
Best puppy name, Kevin.
He's so Kevin. It was the name from the breeder, and they were like, "Well, we're keeping that. That's amazing."
So good. Yeah. Kevin is the name of the bird in Up. Remember that Pixar? They find that beautiful, exotic, weird bird, and the little kid names it Kevin.
Oh, I actually haven't seen Up.
Stop. Everything.
Yeah. You know what? I'm never drawn to animated movies. When I watch them. I usually enjoy them if they're good, but there's no, like, I wouldn't choose to put on an animated movie ever.
I go through whole phases where I'll only watch animation.
Really?
Yeah, I love that it's like, because you're drawing that world, there's like no more rules anymore. You can make that universe is not constrained to anything. It's like gravity, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. As I said, like when I'm there, I quite enjoy it. I just never feel drawn to them.
Okay, but that is another. That's a very. We're gonna have that conversation. But tell us about Kevin.
Oh yeah, Kevin. Just on his name, when Rowena texted me his name, and I was like, oh my God, Kevin, that's my granddad's name and my first boyfriend's name. And then I was like, to be clear, different people.
It's like one of those things, like it's only as you type it, you're like, oh no.
Oh no. Different people.
Okay, cool. For the record.
Yeah. Let it be known. But yeah, just like, so it was a cold morning essay, but it was sunny. And just because of the way Rowena's house is set up with the dogs and stuff, we had to sit outside in the courtyard, but it was so beautiful. So I had like the sun on my back and these two just like embodiments of joy running around. And it was the best way to start a day ever. And puppies are just magic. And Rowena's never had a puppy before, so she got Midas as an adult dog. And just like seeing the joy that it's bringing her, and they're just so funny and so, I don't know, I think they're the most joyful little things, and it sets my heart on fire.
No,
just
I
so
love
gorgeous.
They've got the way that they walk without bending their little legs. They're like doot, 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 doot. It's like they trot everywhere with that kind of like, yeah, just pure innocence and curiosity.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Or like, you know, they're running and fall over, then they're like, oh, well, I'm just on the ground now. I guess I'm doing ground stuff for a bit. You know, just like following their bodies.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful to watch. Anyway, that's the puppy that I met.
Please, can we start a segment of the show which is just like a 10-minute like summary of the dogs we've met that week?
We totally can.
Kevin gets 5 stars.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And so does
5
Midas,
stars.
because they're both good boys.
Oh, they're such good boys.
Oh, I gave Maggie a shower this week.
Oh, how'd she go?
Was fucking traumatizing for me and her. Oh. But we did it. We made it to the end. She's just got so much fur that like it's not a small endeavor. And it literally was like I went to yoga. I came back. I was sweaty. And I like in desperate need of a shower, but I'm like, I'm doing her first and then I'm going to do me afterwards because I'm going to be filthy after this.
Smart.
And it was just like standing there wrangling her in the shower, because it's not one of those ones where you can take the shower head off the top.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like it feels like a very, very small, isolated thunderstorm. But just very small, and I have to keep aligning her under it, but we did it anyway. I mean, this is great content, but let me just say that I feel like, you know, there are some things that are disproportionately small, but they make you feel like a warrior princess when you actually do them. I'm like, fuck, I did it.
Yeah,
we made it to the other side of that.
Yeah.
And now it's amazing. She's like an actual teddy bear, perfect for cuddles. I know, but it also means she's in the danger zone of desperately seeking something disgusting to roll in.
I know. Why? We probably going to give our doggies a bath today because we're going to LA on Thursday.
Oh, yes.
But it's funny doing all the, like, you know, washing all the towels and bedclothes and shit, because we've got a friend coming to house sit and dog sit while we're away.
Oh, I didn't realize that. For the whole time?
For the whole time.
Like a month or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for a month. Yeah, which is great. But it's funny that we've sort of like included the dogs in the cleaning. Like, well, we should probably give them a wash.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very thoughtful. It's thoughtful for your friend. It's also thoughtful for the dogs, because they'll get the best cuddle experience if they are.
That's true.
At their optimal.
That's true.
Clean.
Yeah.
Let's talk about LA.
Okay.
So, as you're saying that, I'm looking at your face, right? You've got your beautiful pink headphones, your pink glasses, your pink lipstick, purple pink lipstick, and you're heading to LA like as
Barbie
has just been released?
I am so excited. I'm like, so I guess we have different social media algorithms going on. But I'm amazed. Like, the marketing around this movie has been incredible. Like, I can't remember the last time I was excited about a movie that had this much, like, hype around it and this much lead up. As far as I'm aware, unless I had told him, Dan would not have even been aware that this movie exists.
Wow. Yeah.
But, so I'm like, we are going to Barbie because it comes out the day we arrive as well.
Oh, my God. That's going to be so fucking fun.
Yeah. So we'll definitely go within the first, day or two because we get there at like 5:30 in the afternoon or something. So probably not day one, but maybe day two. But yeah, I'm like, you're coming to this with me.
Also to see it, like, if you happen to be going to London for a month, like, yeah, okay, cool, it's a premiere, but like that makes less sense.
Yeah.
But to go to Los Angeles, it's like the Barbiest, like it's
it's the middle of summer.
Yeah. It's like iconic, and I feel like it's like such a moment in culture that even Dan, it might not be his scene. I actually think he'll probably love it. The movie looks very smart and very funny.
I agree.
Obviously don't know yet, but it looks great. I think he'll love it.
Yeah, I think so too. And this is again, without him having seen any of the marketing for it, I'm like, I think it's not what you think it is. Like, you'll enjoy it. It's got a great cast. I'm sure it's exactly, like a smart, funny take on the Barbie world.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. And also, the other thing is, listeners will know I'm a very big RuPaul's Drag Race fan. So there's an All-Stars season running at the moment, and I wasn't sure where it was going to sit with the end of the season, but this coming weekend is the finale, and we are going to be in LA for the finale. And there's a very well-known drag bar there called Mickey's, who you hear it referred to by the Queens a lot, in West Hollywood. And every week they do like a viewing party there. And so I'm going to go to that, and it's the finale, and one of my favourite queens from the season is going to be there hosting, and it's $25.
What the fuck?
This is like, people ask why LA? Because we've gone there a lot, and our sort of like ideal future plan would be to spend like 3 months of the year there every year so that we can just escape winter and be happy. Be happy and hot. But this is one of the main reasons. I mean, the weather is also a big reason. But just your access to world-class, world-leading entertainment, whether it's drag or stand-up comedy or music, that is just happening all around you all the time for nothing. Like seeing world-class comedians that would cost you hundreds of dollars to see at a like massive stadium or theatre venue in Australia are there working like 3 nights a week for $10 at the Comedy Store, or it's just like that sort of access to culture is so exciting to me. The fact that this is it's like being inside the TV. That's how I feel. It's like all of my favourite things from the TV. And because I think we have such an exported American culture in Australia, which I think some people try to ignore or rally against or whatever, but it's just the truth. Like there's no, if you take any sort of value judgment out of that, that is just true. If you look at the, TV, movies, music, etc., we consume, we are very American centric in our culture. So yeah, like I remember the first time I went to New York, I was like, oh my God, I'm in Sesame Street.
I thought you were going to say Sex in the City.
No! I mean, that too, but it's like, it's that ingrained from that young, you're seeing Oscar the Grouch and the steam coming up from the grates, and all of this stuff has been in, like, it's made up parts of us because, like, we've spoken a lot about the power of storytelling. So all of these stories that we're getting of, our heroes and crushes and people that we identify with, and all of these stories that have made up the tapestry of us as humans exist in this place that feels like it doesn't exist. It's like Narnia. But then you go and you're like, it's real. Muscle Beach is real.
And you can touch it. Like it is just that kind of surreal feeling of a thing, like you say, that has always existed as a fantasy in this one degree of separation, like removed from your life. And then you go and you're like, oh, these are things I can see. Or I remember last time when you went to the comedy store and you saw a comedian and you're like standing in the front row, you can like watch him spit while he's talking. Yes. You're like, oh, but like I think of you as someone from Netflix.
Yes.
But you're just a guy in the world the same way I'm a person in the world. And like, it kind of, I feel like it's so helpful in breaking down that barrier of what we think we can do as well. When you just see people doing stuff in contexts, or I know I get that a bit when I've been in Europe, seeing the landscapes that I recognize from like fairy tales as a kid.
Yes.
Because growing up in South Africa, pretty similar to Australia, like our nature is not what you see in fairy tales.
Yes.
It's like we grew up where nature's like browns and yellows and like much drier, harsher kinds of colors. And I'm like, the books were like flowers and castles and greens and whatever. I'm like, oh, that's just Europe.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was fantasy. I'm like, oh, it's not fantasy. It's Germany.
Yeah. That is so true.
Forests and stuff.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I remember last time we went to Europe, which was quite a number of years ago now, in Germany, going into like the woods.
Yes, the woods. It's real.
Exactly. This is where Hansel and Gretel live. Like it was amazing.
The woods. Yes, I know.
I hadn't actually connected those two things as being the same, but you're absolutely right. It's that excitement of realizing a thing that you thought was magic and made up is real. It's just LA or Germany.
I think as a kid, like I could almost wrap my head around, I knew that there were places called Disney World or Disneyland, and there was like the castle, you know, I'm like, I get it. That's the place where they've taken the stories and they've like made a real place of the stories.
Yes.
That was far less jarring than just realizing that like actual castles exist.
Yeah.
Like, what?
What is this? Oh my gosh, that's so true.
So what are your LA? Do you have any like actual bookings? Are you going to kind of, so you obviously the Drag Race finale viewing?
Yes, so I bought tickets to that again. Dan, God love him, is escorting me. I'm like, I can go on my own, but I prefer not to.
You're like, I may make best friends and never come back. It's a chance we'll both have to take.
But I also think like, I mean, that's something, I would never have any expectations on him to come to something like that in Melbourne, because that's what I have got the gaze for. But I think, you know, when you're on holiday or you're traveling, those sort of things that are way out of your usual like taste or comfort zone or whatever feels like much less like an annoyance and much more like, oh, this is something that holiday me gets to try.
100%. And again, especially given the context that you're in, it's like, it's of that place. Like if you were going to Barcelona, sure, maybe you'd be having fun. You'd still definitely go. Maybe Dan would go because he's in holiday mode. But it is LA. Like that is the place you're going to see.
Yeah.
Are you going to also they've got like cool hikes and nature stuff as well?
Yeah,
apparently.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we'll get up into the hills. We have done a couple of little hikes up there previously, but it's so nice. So we're there for a whole month and we're just staying in the one Airbnb the whole time. We're not traveling anywhere. Well, we'll probably go on some little day trips and stuff, but, you know, no internal flights. And I feel like that just, because, you know, when you're on holiday, you feel so compelled to like fill your days and make the most of it to the point where it can become
a job,
not enjoyable. Yeah, it's definitely not. And there is a difference between like holiday and travel. I think, you know, there's a type of holiday where like we are just like relaxing by the pool, doing nothing, getting some massages, you know, like a Bali holiday. And then there's travel where maybe you're more like, I want to know what it's like to live here and collect experiences and see all of the things and, you know, go to museums and shit or whatever. Both equally valuable, and ideally a mix of both I think is nice in time away. But I think the problem with being from Australia, not the problem, just the situation, is that we're so fucking far away from everywhere that you do really feel the need to like pack everything so full because like I've spent so much money and so much time to get over here. And you know, like 3 weeks usually would be a generous holiday. Like maybe you're going for 2 or 3 weeks from a money perspective, time perspective, all that sort of stuff. And you sort of forget about the fact that you are still you when you are on the other side of the world. You still require rest.
Yeah.
You're not suddenly going to be interested in things that you're not usually interested in. But I think that, you forget that you will also, like holiday you, travel you, also needs a couple of days in there to do nothing and not feel guilty about that.
It's so difficult. And it's such a tricky one because it sounds like a thing you can understand intellectually, but it's very difficult to give yourself permission when you're there.
Yeah.
Because I think that whether we're conscious of it or not, I think our brains almost divide. You're like, you've spent X amount on flights, X amount on accommodation, never mind anything else. You're now dividing that total up over how many days, right?
Yeah.
So this day, before you've eaten anything, before you've done anything, just being there on that day is costing you however many $100.
Yeah.
Now you're like, my God, well, fuck, I better go see the thing or do the thing, what, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which is what I'm really excited about. Like having a month feels like it takes the pressure off a lot. And
awesome.
also just being in the one spot. And somewhere that we've been lots of times before as well. I mean, there are so many new places to explore, but it's sort of like, I guess some of those, like, the things that you feel like you have to see when you go to LA are long ticked off the list.
Yeah.
Which gives us more scope for, just exploring, going for a drive and seeing where it takes us, you know, these sorts of things I'm really pumped about.
Do you have rollerblades?
You are like the third person to ask me about rollerblading in LA. I have roller skates.
Okay, same.
But I'm not going to take
quite
them
heavy.
with me. Quite heavy. But like I feel like that little strip of like Venice Beach where you got Muscle Beach and stuff, it's like being in Baywatch. I love it so much. And the last time we were there, we watched Baywatch like all the time. So it was like being in Baywatch, watching Baywatch. I just love it. And we will still, like, now if we need like a little like comfort thing, put on Baywatch and just like dream about being in LA. But it's almost like a bit of a kind of 90s time warp, like that, like picture like a B-roll scene from Baywatch. Like you can picture it, right? Like people in like fluoro and roller skates, like that shit is still there.
and the thing is, it was always there, but we're in currently a moment where outside of that, the 90s is having a revival moment anyway.
Yes.
So like for the first time in 30 years since it was cool the first time, it is also just cool again.
Yes.
Like objectively outside of the bubble.
Yes.
But I can completely imagine it's like those bikinis that are, like you say, fluoro and then like super high waisted.
Yeah.
But they only cover like just your crack basically.
Yeah.
Like most of your butt is out. And then you need the big, like some big hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Very excited. So I don't know, maybe we can hire some rollerblades or something.
But maybe even as I asked it, I realized that is a classic of what falls into the category of what we were just saying about making up a story that holiday you is going to be different from current you. Because
That's true.
if you're not rollerblading on your weekends now, why the fuck would you want to rollerblade when you get to Venice Beach?
Well, I bought those roller skates during lockdown and I think I used them once.
Yep. I had a pair of those too. I recently sold them on Facebook Marketplace.
I had such big dreams.
I know.
And I was scared of the neighborhood children laughing at me.
I know, I get it. I think I was at a point where I've realized all the things that make me money are drawing based, whether it's illustration, tattooing, like these, I need a right hand to make money.
Yes.
And it's quite, I mean, it sounds like an obvious thing to say given what we do, but it's that sudden realization. And I had it bouldering the other day as well, where I'm like, oh, an injury is not just like a shitty inconvenience. It's like I don't have a plan B.
Yeah.
My drawing plan B is tattooing, or my tattooing plan B is drawing, but they both need a right hand.
Yeah.
And I don't have any I don't have any skill. I mean, whatever, you'd find something, you'd have to, but like,
yeah,
just suddenly I'm like, okay, cool, rollerblading for a laugh, like lol. But also if I fuck up my wrist, it's not just me typing email. Like I can't do my job with a wrist brace.
Yeah.
I sound like an old lady.
But
that's
no,
the truth
you
of it.
sound like a smart woman. But I can't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast before or not, but I have a friend who is also an illustrator, same line of work. That's how I met him. And he had a sort of freak accident. Like I was actually there at the time that happened because we were working on an event together, and someone was coming out of the bathroom as he was going in and sort of opened the door into his hand. So something that like doesn't feel like a big deal. It's like, you hurt his hand, but it just sort of like the way that it kind of, the force came onto his finger. He ended up going to hospital that afternoon to get it checked, but just thinking like, oh, maybe it's broken or sprained or something. But it must have just been like the force and the angle that it hit it on. It like had nerve damage. It just like this years long journey, multiple operations. Then it had this like, I can't remember what the condition's called, but they call it like the suicide syndrome or something, because basically you have this like phantom pain that doesn't actually exist, but you can't do anything about it.
Oh, that
because
is
it's like a neurological disorder rather than a physical thing. But yeah, so he's had this massive journey that he's been on, but through all of that, for big chunks of time, couldn't use his hand, his drawing hand. And he, had a mortgage, got a young family. It was incredibly stressful. And at that time, I was going through this exact thought process that you've just talked about and gone, I have literally no other skills and no plan B. And that's when I was like, okay, what would I do if something like this happened to me? I mean, Ray by the way, funny isn't quite the right word, but he's had this incredible life. He is a rock climber, and has done these like insanely dangerous things, and like slept on the side of mountains and gone on these huge expeditions to places people have never been before. And this is what fucked him?
Yeah, like bathroom door.
A bathroom door. Yeah, exactly. So it's like...
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Fuck. Yeah, it does. But it just goes to show, like, you don't have to be rollerblading or doing anything dangerous. These things can just happen out of nowhere. The worst injuries I've had has been like reaching into the backseat of my car on a weird angle.
Yeah. And that's a good point as well, because it is just, I think, like adds that perspective to, not to say don't care, but yeah, I think those of us who have a predisposition towards anxiety are trying to manage fear and variables by controlling things, but it does help to be like, nope, actually everything's terrifying.
Yeah. It's gonna get you regardless.
Yeah, not only the things you're worried about, but everything. So just let it go.
Yeah, you might as well go down rollerblading. But that's when I was like, maybe I should start looking into doing teaching more. Like what is my, like, what do I know? And trying to get some of my IP out of my head and documented that I could, start getting together some stuff to teach. And it's also when I started thinking about improving my public speaking, because at that point I think I had run a couple of workshops, but I was so nervous. And when you're like, I was confident that the content I had was good, but it's like, you're shaking, and you can see that like everyone knows.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows how nervous you are. And they're on, like, it was a lovely, supportive group of people. Like they're on board. They're on my side. I felt like they were on my side, but also like I could see them kind of feeling sorry for me a little bit.
Oh no, I can't. I know exactly. And then it makes it worse because you can see, I think it's that thing of like the kind eyes.
Yes.
And they almost like nodding a little bit while you're talking. Like, yeah.
Good girl.
Yeah, exactly.
You got it.
And like you say, I mean, obviously better to have an audience on your side, and that is so lovely. I mean, if the alternative is them sitting there with folded arms being like, who the fuck are you? You shouldn't be, like, that would be the nightmare.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't give you, because it does feel, the way you would support like a kid. It's like that energy rather than, I guess, respect, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like it was just the sort of presenting to a room bit. Like once we got into working and it was more just like wandering around with people, that felt okay. But it's just the like, when you've never done it before, just like hearing your voice and silence is weird. Like it just feels very, very vulnerable. And it's weird to think now because it's, due to a lot of practice and work over, that was probably almost a decade ago, I reckon, running those first workshops. It now feels quite comfortable that I can't, but I can access that feeling quite readily of how sick and nerve-wracking it was and having to work through that fear. And as the topic of this podcast always comes back to, like, just having to be shit and doing it anyway, because that's where you are on that learning timeline. Like you're a beginner, like we were talking about last week with the dancing on planes and stuff. You can't practice that out of context.
Yeah.
You can't practice facilitating a workshop with no one there.
Any
So any
performance. Yeah. And like I mean, I guess you could do it to one person, then you could do it to two people, then you could do it to three people. It just wouldn't work because also the dynamic of any performance is like, who is that one person? Who are those two people? There have been times where I've been...
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Where I've done drawing work in front of 500 people, and if you could have linked my heart rate to like some whatever monitor, it would have been completely fine, like the most calm. There are other times where I've been doing something in front of 8 people and I can feel my palms sweating, like that panic, that rising panic, and it's just there's so many other factors. Yeah.
What would you do? Say you're out rollerblading, looking amazing, and you break your wrist. What do you think? What would you do?
I think it would... I don't know. It's like... I think it would probably be something in like maybe facilitation. Mm-hmm. It would have to be... Yeah, I mean, some... teaching adjacent thing, like I'd be open to that. I think it's just like the thought of developing like some kind of content makes me feel exhausted, but if I had a framework or someone to help me do that or think about it, I could. But like maybe some kind of facilitation thing or like something workshop based, I guess, because it would have to be right, like if you're taking it out of your hand, it would have to be something in your brain. And I suppose that would be like, I think the value that I would add would be something in like speaking and connecting with people. I mean, or just this.
Approved.
I would just come to your house and record 12 hours of podcasts a day.
Oh, amazing. Am I going to push you over? Hey, Alice, try on these roller skates.
Want to come blading with me this weekend?
Go down the hill. It's not scary.
Want to come shred with me in the gang outside the IMAX?
Yeah. Well, let's not break our wrists.
No, let's not. But it's worth thinking about. It feels like a very important but kind of like adult thought, I guess. I mean, it's the kind of thing. I've done so many jobs with clients who talk about the importance of kind of some sort of, the phrase used is diversified portfolio, and it's a thing. When I started doing this work 10 years ago, I would like write it down and I'd just be like, I don't care what that is. That sounds boring and I'm not interested. And now I've like really been thinking about it. I'm like, I kind of get that. Like, I mean, there's arguments you could make. I've seen people do amazing things because they are all fucking in, and that's it. And they don't give themselves, they burn the ships. They can't go home. This is it. And they have to make it work. There's one way to do it. Other people who are like, I want a few different arrows in my quiver, keeps it interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly what I was thinking as you were talking was yes, it's good. It's useful to think about these things so that like if it does happen, it's not the literal first time you've thought about it. But then, yes, exactly, there is the other argument to say like don't have a plan B, don't have a safety net, just go for it and see what you can achieve when you put all of your eggs in one basket. I saw a meme the other day that was like, of course I put all my eggs in one basket. I'm going to carry multiple baskets and just put a few eggs in each. Why would I do that? It's a great point.
It's a great point.
It's efficient. All eggs, one basket, one trip.
Yeah. Just walk slowly. Be careful.
That is probably the point of that saying, by the way. Like, I feel like sayings become sort of diluted over time. Even the jack of all trades, master of none. So that's not the whole saying. I'm going to look it up so that I get it right rather than make it up. So it's actually kind of the original saying, the intent behind it is almost opposite.
Oh, wow. Is it one of those? Because I feel like there are a few examples of this where it's like, we've kept half of a thing like this piece of wisdom, but there's another one that's like a very, I don't know. I think it's like with great power comes great response, but like not the Spider-Man quote. Yeah. That was sort of based on, I think, like a Stoic something, but there's an expanded version and it's like, when you add the first sentence, that changes things.
Yes, exactly. So this is exactly the case with this. So the full quote is, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Plot twist.
Yeah. And obviously, like a saying is a saying. It's not like, well, here is the evidence. Like it's just a framework for thinking about things. So you can take half of it, but it does inherently change the meaning, that it's not saying it's bad to diversify your portfolio.
Yep, I talk like that now, you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite the opposite.
You can exactly, like those little phrases I think are like, they're tricky because they've done all those studies. And I remember a lot of this coming out of the kind of behavioral science world when it was that weird and dark chapter of time where Trump was like a thing. Don't even want to open that box of memories, but like, and they basically were showing how through sloganeering, if you have something like short that rhymes and you repeat it enough times, it just becomes not quite truth in people's minds, but it becomes so familiar, and the feeling of familiarity is so adjacent to the feeling of trust and truth that like eventually you can say the most ridiculous thing, but if you've repeated it enough times, it lands and like affects people's behavior, even though consciously they would tell you that they know it's bullshit. Yeah. And those little kind of cliches or idioms have that, I guess, like it's a double-edged sword in that sense. It's like they can be really helpful little nuggets of wisdom that have survived over time because they're so memorable, but also you trust them very easily because they sound wise and old and true, and then you're like, but actually what the fuck is that saying?
Yeah, what do I even agree with that? I don't know. But yeah, we attribute it like because we hear them, and probably we hear them like in schools and stuff, like in educational institutions, and smart people quoting them, that it's like, because it's old and repeated, that it's automatically true.
Yeah.
But it's just a saying, like it's just a framework for thinking about a thing. But absolutely, it feels like truth.
And trustworthy.
Yeah.
Like it feels time honored.
Yeah.
It's made me think now, also hearing you reference that meme, like how often, and I mean, okay, probably for every 100 memes I consume, like 92 of them are bullshit and make me laugh.
I thought you were going to say 92 of them are dogs.
Yes, also that. No, 100 out of 100 are dogs. But how sometimes it's funny how something as silly and frivolous as a meme like can really open up thought as well, because the thing that makes them funny is the like telling a true thing in a way that makes a familiar truth seem absurd or new or laughable. Like that's where that humor, that's the divide, that's like the mechanism under it. So there's wisdom in memes is what I'm saying.
Well, I think it's the same thing that happens with comedy, right? It's like,
exactly.
Yes, it's entertainment, but the reason that we love it and we feel connected is because someone is saying a thing that you don't usually say out loud and you relate to the thing, and that's why it's funny and that's why we like it, you know? It's, you know, those little quirks in life that you don't usually talk about openly, which I think is the same thing that, you know, memes and comedy do, that you go, oh my God, me too, and we love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Memes and comedy. It's the
There it is. Let's go.
Well, it's probably about time to wrap up, I think.
Our next few episodes are going to be us trying a new format.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. So because you're traveling and then I'm going to be traveling immediately afterwards, we're going to be trying our hand at recording long distance. And I, for one, am very fucking excited that I get this excuse to basically phone you and talk shit with you while we're both on opposite sides of the world.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, follow along. There will be some glitches along the way, but we're probably going to nail it.
I mean,
it's probably going to be flawless, actually.
If we're known for anything, it's our technical prowess.
It's our incredible high level of professionalism.
I think it will be fun for people to follow along.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll do some interesting things. I'll tell you about my rollerblading journey. And
I remember last year we did one, I think we'd done one, and it was, the actual sound was pretty janky, which hopefully we'll upgrade this time. But we did a chat while you were away.
Yes, we did.
And I remember like both of us, you were so tired that was it the one where you were so tired? One of us was so jet lagged and tired and delirious, and the other one was just confused. But it was a really fun episode and we didn't know how it was going to land, and then it ended up being one of our best ones at the time. Like in terms of listenership, people related to it. So it's all a huge experiment.
I think people like to watch a car crash.
And we're here to be that car for you.
The things we do. The things we do. All right, beautiful Alice Edie. Well, I'll see you on the other side from summer. Woo!
Yeah. Thanks for today. We'll chat soon.
Love you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Imposter Syndrome Club. Please follow us wherever you find your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra kind, rate and review. Or if you got any insights or value from this, share with a friend.
You can also find us on Instagram at imposterpod or online at impostersyndromeclub.com.